Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty interesting stuff we're actually going to go cover throughout the next 1 or 2 days, where we actually had some pretty high up PlayStation 5 executives actually kind of come out and give some pretty strong statements. Some of these are in regards now to the fact that they're canceling way too many games and basically not giving a lot of games a chance, but as well, the fact that also a lot of these executives are also trying to go and fine tune the future of the PlayStation 5 and not want to go and see their entire basically game catalog being stuck on live service games, which is kind of like the big, I guess, general gaming mantra that we kept on assuming Sony and PlayStation want to have throughout these next few years, and as well their kind of long-term goals. We're going to talk about this because it's actually very intriguing to go and see and shape where the future of the PlayStation 5 might be going, and as well, just kind of fun stuff to talk about. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch room down below for actually probably streaming up on Twitch. You guys are boys, go say hi after this video is all done. Amazon link for all the consoles, and of course, give me your thoughts and comments down below. Would love to go and hear them. So first and foremost, I want to maybe more so talk about the fact of how the fact that they've been canceling so many different games, and we'll dive then into part 2 of that because it's kind of correlated to as well of what they want to shape for the future. So as you guys know, PlayStation actually has had a pretty good set of very, I don't want to say safe, but safe's probably the best word, exclusive games that have come out recently. A good example is God of War. Was technically the second God of War game, so they kind of know that in that same little duology is going to do well on top of all the other prior God of War games too. Or same thing with Horizon. Horizon was once again the secondary game. Things like Ratchet and Clank, which is on the multiples, etc., etc. So right now, a lot of the bigger games we've seen, besides maybe Ghost of Tsushima, have mainly been more so games that have been around for quite some time or very well established IPs. But of course, live service and as well indie games also play a really big factor when it does come to games and games as a whole. So one intriguing thing is what happens when games get canceled, what happens for the future of games and everything else, and well, that's kind of what happened over here, where we actually had some PlayStation 5 executives throughout some actual interviews saying that, hey, we might be canceling just so many and too many different games, where PlayStation embraces new ideas, and well as they like them, embrace them, sadly a lot of them do actually end up failing. So the PlayStation boss, Shuhei Yoshida, had discovered the company's production pipelines, saying the giant cancels so many games in an interview with The Guardian. Yoshida said part of the plane of making new games is knowing that a lot of these actually may not ever be seen through release. PlayStation embraces new ideas, and of course many of them fail. We do a prototype, we evaluate, we decide whether to spend more time and resources or we just stop. We cancel so many games, Yoshida said. You should try to convince the developers that I'm trying to save them from getting stuck with this project, which I'm assuming just based off of that wording is he can maybe say hey, I can understand that this game won't really make money, won't really make progress, or as well won't get long-term funding, or the game's just bad, just go and cut your losses, move on to something new, or divert your actual manpower to something else. The executive went on to say that PlayStation works with people who have very strong ideas, which makes suggesting changes or canceling games outright so hard, which basically means a lot of people are stubborn. Maybe an indie dev somehow gets some financing, but this is my bread and butter. They may be the same level of a Stardew Valley, or Stardew Valley if they change in that game, something like a PlayStation or Xbox may not have actually seen as much success. Sony reportedly also canceled a Days Gone sequel. Additionally, reporter Jason Schreier said Sony also even canceled a new Uncharted game, which is nuts because I feel like even if these games are on the mediocre side or not the best, they'd probably still have huge sales and huge promotion, especially for games like Days Gone or Uncharted. Before this, another gaming giant Blizzard said it cancels about 50% of games it begins development on. The truth is, behind the curtain, it's a horror show, but most people outside of Blizzard don't really realize around half our titles don't even see the light of day, Blizzard co-founder Alan had him said, which I said that kind of surprising. I do understand the idea of canceled games. I understand the idea that some games may not be worth it, or maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, they're not making progress, or they're wasting too much time, or whatever it might go and be. I get that. It's kind of crazy to see how big this industry is. Other news about canceled games, the developer who worked on Star Wars Battlefront also said, as we kind of covered in a prior video, it was actually almost done. It was almost fully done. As also for PlayStation, Slay's big release was the Burning Shores expansion for Horizon Forbidden West. Marvel Spider-Man 2, which is exclusive to PS5, is rumored to be released in September. So basically, we're kind of seeing some of these news over here where we're seeing a lot of these games in development, but funny enough, just a lot of them aren't really apparently that good. But also, once again, it goes into even more comments, where instead of them just being canceled, they're also trying to go and somewhat fine-tune up the games too as well. Where they go into the PlayStation 5 executives don't even want to see gaming's future dominated by live service games, which is, they also call it boring. We're it's kind of crazy to go and hear this. The PlayStation boss, Shuhei Yoshida, wants the game industry to continue to chase its creative dreams. So it's kind of funny where it kind of seems like he's supporting this on either way. Even though some games may get canceled, it does kind of seem like they're at least giving it a shot and trying their best for it. So I kind of support that for PlayStation. Although PlayStation is in the midst of a big push into live service games, one executive with the company doesn't want to see the games industry become too homogeneous. Speaking to The Guardian, PlayStation boss Yuhei Yoshida explained as well that the talent of game developers is what drives the industry forward, but did admit that seeing the best-selling games list downed by live service titles would be boring for him. Now, that's also kind of going back to what just happened in that prior article, which is why I did that one first, is that, well, you have to take the risk. And that's kind of why I think a lot of games, maybe like the Activision or PlayStation, are willing to go and front load millions of dollars to go and be like, well, this might be a major hit. It's almost like an angel investing in angel capital investing or just whatever, where they could go drop, say, $50 million and then make a few different games, but maybe like make 10 different games and only one actually sees the light of day. But that one game that cost them $50 million makes them $500 million. Then at the next time they can go then invest into 100 different games, the odds might be better, et cetera, et cetera. So a good example is maybe like a Fortnite, or maybe like even a Bungie is maybe a better example, where Bungie does have Destiny, which is a profit-driven game. It's making good money, and well, it'll also be now owned by Sony. But as well with all of that, that also may go and show that since they're making enough money, they can now go and invest into other games. Maybe a good example is also League of Legends, where League of Legends themselves online can also make a lot of money, but you also want to expand and try to get different games, or if that game dies or loses its player base, you're not going to be making as much over time. So that's kind of why it's nice to go and see something like PlayStation still investing so much. The games industry will never cease to be a fun place. The industry keeps growing and growing, and I hope it keeps supporting and chasing creative ideas and people who try to work on new things. You don't want to see the same top 10 games every year being almost the same, which is, in all honesty, has kind of been how it has been. We see like an Assassin's Creed, we see a Call of Duty, we see like a Fortnite, we see the other BRs, and it does get a little bit boring as time goes on. And I think that's kind of a nice gesture to go and see that they don't only want to go and deal with these games. And that's kind of why I also always like a big fan of Sony. A good example is Xbox. They do have a few cool games. They have like Forza, then maybe Halo. But like, I want something new. I want something more fresh. And at least sometimes we do see new and fresher stuff from PlayStation. Obviously, it may not always be a hit, but at the same time, I do like the fact that Xbox can maybe start doing that in the future with more, games. Sony has the ambitious goal to launch 12 live service games by 2025, and it most recently acquired developer Firewalk Studios from its previous parent company, probably Monsters, Inc. Firewalk has worked on Call of Duty, Destiny, Apex, Halo, and other titles since it was formed in 2018, and Sony says that Firewalk will help it realize its live service goals alongside other studios working on these projects, including Bungie and Haven Interactive Studios, which we actually made a video on this, I think, like yesterday or 2 days ago, talking about why they're even buying these companies, and why they're trying to go and invest so much money into these, because even if you only have a 50-person, studio, guess what? If you have all the nice resources of Sony and PlayStation, it adds a lot. And also you have like the people that help guide you if you need help, et cetera, and also these like kind of flux teams that will sometimes help out games near completion. So at the same time, Sony is working on the prestige single-player games that helped define the PlayStation brand during the 2010s, essentially giving fans of PlayStation an option to have their cake and also eat it too as well with more options. Sony has always several games in development, and Yoshida explained in the interview the company cancels so many games as it experiments with then evaluates with different concepts, which is also kind of true too. Like every now and then we kind of go through various genres. Like in the early 2010s, we had a lot of like those survival games, like say a DayZ or H1Z1 Survival. Then we also had the big BR push, which once again, H1Z1 into PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, into maybe Call of Duty, then Fortnite, et cetera, Apex. And a lot of the times, like right now, we're kind of on more maybe the tail end of the BR game genre. So the next kind of big thing we've got to be seeing a lot of is maybe more of the live service stuff. But on top of that too, we're not really sure like what else is our next big major step. I do kind of think if I had to guess, maybe like the Escape from Tarkov type style game, where it's like a looter shooter mixed into like a BR type, like survival type game, like a hybrid game. So to see Call of Duty try to work that on in with their Warzone, like that, like live service AI versus like normal player stuff. But I do think kind of Tarkov is probably gonna be the next big major step in gaming. And as well, we also have some other big concepts too as well. But it's crazy to see how much PlayStation has actually been canceling the stuff, but at the same time, they are at least investing. Like to have that positive twist on it, they are investing money and time and effort into these games to go keep on expanding out their horizons, which once again, they don't only want to have live service games like Fortnite or Call of Duty. We've seen this so much when it comes to this big Activision deal and these fights between the two of them, and they need to have other games out there. Like Sony definitely is more known as like the single player game, if I had to go and say, single player genre, but at the same time, they do other stuff as well. Like it's out there. It's cool. So I mean, I don't know. We have like things like Final Fantasy coming out soon in June. We have like Spider-Man coming out in September. But they do also need to have other games like live service games, more indie games, try to expand out brand new IPs, and as well not only be focusing on these live service games. So it's very, very intriguing to go and see this because like they have been canceling a lot of stuff. There's probably like a worrisome thing because you need to go and find games you want to play in the future and that you'd actually also probably hopefully enjoy. But as well, if they don't, then it's just gonna be awkward and strange and weird because you just need something different. Like you can't only be playing God of War and Spider-Man for the next 15 years. They might sell well, but you also need new IPs to keep things fresh, get new people in the fan base, and go from there. So kind of want to hear your thoughts and comments down below on your thoughts on PlayStation. I think overall it's kind of good. Like, I mean, I like the idea that they're investing time and money into it, but we still have to see some bangers every now and then. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed, notifications on, hang out on the Twitch, as well down below if you guys want on the Twitter too. We'll have all the Amazon links for the consoles, and I appreciate y'all so much for watching in the first place.